Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 26th at 9 a.m. We'll call the meeting of the Door County Board of Supervisors together. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a roll call by the county clerk, please. Whoa.
Roy's going to be present. Roy's online, yes. And Claire's not. Morgan is not. Dale is here. Sonal is here. Nicole is here.
Bud, can you sign?
Collins is
Okay.
here. And
Gotcha.
all right, you have 17 present, 1 vacant, 3 excused.
Okay, if you heard the clerk, there's 17 present, 3 excused, and we still have 1 vacant. We have tried to fill District 19 seat. We've reached out twice, extended the timeline for showing interest. We've had some interest, but none that lived within the district. So it's at this point, even after a third effort to the municipalities that are part of that district, we still have not gotten any interest that can serve. So at this point, I guess papers are going to be taken out next month, and we may be waiting to fill that seat. So the presentation of the agenda. Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda as duly noted and presented? There's a motion by Supervisor Anagel, a second by Supervisor Gunlickson. Any discussion on the agenda? When we get to the resolutions, before we get to resolution, resolution 84 regarding the middle station, we will have the new business discussion from the amended agenda prior to that resolution. So with that, all in favor of approval of the agenda, signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, correspondence. There was a letter included in the packet from, or an email from L. Moore. The town of Egg Harbor asked that they're planning to make some public comment if they could distribute their letter under correspondence. So that's at your desk. Also have a letter from the State Historical Society that they're pleased to inform us that the Jenabelle shipwreck, the schooner in Lake Michigan near the town of Gibraltar, Door County, will be considered by the Wisconsin Historical Preservation Review Board for nomination to the Register of Historic Places and National Register of Historic Places. And that meeting will take place November 14th at the State Historical Society in Madison. So that's just for our information. And should someone wish to comment, so, okay. Okay, public comment. Anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment about agenda items that are on our agenda today? Would you state your name and address, please? And you have 3 minutes to do your comment.
Annette Vincent, 2794 Lake Forest Park Road, Sturgeon Bay. Concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, are incompatible with Door County's geology, tourism, economy, and health of its residents. The farm at County Road T in Matthew is proposing to expand to 2,400 animals from the current 1,400. Door County has very shallow soils with an underlying karst geology is not an appropriate location for any kind of CAFO. The need to disperse concentrated manure from thousands of animals in nearby fields with very shallow soils, many containing under 5 feet of topsoil, some just above the 2 feet minimum of Silurian standards, makes this extremely problematic. The CAFO is the equivalent in waste to that produced by a city of 43,000 people. Cow to manure ratio, 18-1, a very conservative ratio. The liquid manure waste is spread on fields to be biodegraded, but without adequate soil to be filtered, absorbed and used. The phosphate and nitrate enters the cracks in the nearby karst bedrock and pollutes the aquifer below. Please note some of the spreading fields impact the city of Sturgeon Bay wells. Kewaunee County residents can relate the dangers of CAFOs, as many of their wells have been polluted by nearby large farms and made unsafe to drink. Kewaunee County has far deeper soil than Door County north of the canal. According to the CARS report written in 2007 by a team of experts, including Bill Schuster, former head of Door County Soil and Water. I'm going to give you this. See the attached map from that report that highlights soil depth. Red and orange are predominantly 5 feet and under depth to bedrock. Green is over 50 feet to bedrock. Door County is red. Besides the basic problems with CAFOs in Door County, this CAFO has a sinkhole dangerously close to 2 older liquid manure lagoons in the production area. Redundant protections must be built into these facilities to prevent any manure spill from entering the aquifer directly through the sinkhole. Operation ordinances allow local communities to regulate some issues that pose a concern to their communities. DNR permits specifically state that they are subject to local rules and regulations. The township of Sevastopol and Sturgeon Bay passed one in 2014 regulating one mechanism of manure spreading. The county board can have an impact. Please see the attached flyer, which must give you, on Operation Ordinances from Sustained Rural Wisconsin. On page 2 of your agenda is a letter from Lauren Moore to the DNR that was forwarded to the county board. Detailed analysis of the CAFO expansion. Please read it. Finally, I ask you to attend the DNR public hearing. It will be on Wednesday, November 5th at 10 a.m. at the Gala in Sturgeon Bay with an in-person and Zoom option available. Please attend this meeting to hear the public's valid concerns with this expansion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, is there someone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? Please.
Good morning. My name is Randy Morrow. I live at 526 Kentucky Street right here in Sturgeon Bay. And before I read this quick letter to you, it's going to be about the Yonkers building. And please note that as of now, we've already lost more than $250,000 in tax revenue, as well as additional dollars that have not been spent, that have been spent maintaining this building. I am going to give this letter to council as well. Dear members of the Door County Board, I am writing as a concerned taxpayer and resident of Door County to formally request immediate action regarding the Yonkers building currently held and owned by the county. This property, which has remained vacant and deteriorating, represents not only financial liability, but also a missed opportunity for public benefit. Under Wisconsin law, the sale or retention of municipal property may be challenged by taxpayers if there is evidence of illegality, fraud, or a clear abuse of discretion by the governing body. Given the prolonged vacancy, lack of public use, and apparent presence of a strategic plan for the property's future, I believe that the continued retention of the Yonkers building may constitute such abuse. To that end, I am initiating a formal public records request under Wisconsin Open Records Law to obtain the following: the original purchase agreement for the Yonkers building, all board meeting minutes discussing the property, any maintenance or inspection reports, any plans, proposals, or communications regarding its future use. These documents will help clarify whether the county has fulfilled its fiduciary duty to maintain public assets responsibly and in alignment with the public purpose doctrine. As you are aware, public funds and assets must be used for legitimate public benefit. The county cannot justify the continued retention of this property under that doctrine. It may be vulnerable to legal challenge. In addition to this request, I ask that the board provides a public hearing on the future of the Yonkers building, a formal resolution to sell, lease, or repurpose the property with a defined timeline. This issue is not merely administrative, it is a matter of public trust, fiscal responsibility, and community development. I urge the board to act transparently and decisively in addressing the future of this property. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a presentation? Okay, yes, please. Again, state your name and address, please.
Yes, good morning. Tom Wilson. I live on Lawrence Road, Egg Harbor address, town of Jacksonport, Jacksonport town resident and Jacksonport town chair. So I want to thank the county as a resident, as a town board member for the ambulance service and the services that are provided to our county. I do want to touch a little bit on number 14 on your agenda. With that, 3 minutes, right? So I put quite a few numbers together, and I could quote several of the supervisors on how close or how far you live from ambulance service. Some of you are 5 minutes away, some of you are 25 minutes away. I myself am 21 minutes. This is Google time. I want to believe ambulance can go faster, but we all know what the seasonality of our county is, so those things change. So I'm 21 or 25 minutes away from ambulance service if I can run on Google time. A lot of the board members are 15 minutes away. So there's a lot of disparity. There's a lot of numbers there. What I do want to say is the National Fire Protection Association recommends that 90% of their calls be reached within 8 minutes, or that they have an emergency first responder within 5 minutes. We are fortunate in our community that we have first responders readily available. Those numbers are challenged, are probably going to be challenged. I don't know if they're challenged today, just like our fire departments. We at one time had 30 people on our fire department in Jacksonport. We have people, but we have a handful that are really active. When there's a fire up north, the communities work together. And I'm asking that you look at that with the ambulance service going forward. The mid-station in Northern Door County would add to the community. Sister Bay and Sturgeon Bay in the summer, different times of year, a long ways away from the central part of the county, the village of Egg Harbor, or the town of Egg Harbor, or the town of Jacksonport. And if a station was placed there, it would just add tremendously to the community, because it would provide backup for Sturgeon Bay or Sister Bay. As I say, our demographics are changing. Time is up. Thank you. Please support the ambulance.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Hello, my name is John Heller, Village President of the Village of Egg Harbor. I reside at 7842 Eames Farm Road in the Village of Egg Harbor. So I'm here to advocate for the Mid-County EMS station. The Ad Hoc Emergency Study Committee final report, the preliminary information as provided by Aaron LeClaire. Mr. LeClaire states in his background that the EMS Ad Hoc Committee in 2015 recommended a new station to be constructed in the Egg Harbor, Jacksonport area to address significant response gaps. And then in his analysis, he breaks it down into upfront costs and also ongoing costs, and then talks about a standalone station and a station that would be incorporated into an existing fire department or an existing fire station. I'm here to advocate for that station being located in the Village of Egg Harbor for the following reasons. And I've given everyone a copy of a letter that was sent out June 6, 2024, as a result of the presentation by Aaron LeClaire that is summarized in the packet that you have. As a first step, we wish to express our strong desire to partner with the county to bring this project to reality. As you are aware, the village and the town already have a long history of partnering together to jointly support and fund the fire stations in the Village of Egg Harbor and in Carlsville. This prepares us to work together effectively with the county and other agencies which may be involved. We have reviewed the very useful statistics which are in the report that you have, and demographics that have been assembled by the Ad Hoc Committee and specifically Aaron LeClaire. With this letter, time up?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Pardon?
30 seconds, please.
Oh. So, well, it's summarized in the letter. In terms of infrastructure, we have property, we have town property, we have village property surrounding the town property, we have infrastructure, we have, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So please read the letter.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment?
Justin McDonald, I'm the fire chief for the town and village of Egg Harbor Fire Department. I encourage all of you to look at the middle ambulance station. It is much needed. We are 20 minutes from the ambulance from either Sister Bay or Sturgeon Bay. The other night on a non-emergency call, basically, I waited 18 minutes for an ambulance from Sturgeon Bay to respond to a call. That's unacceptable. There's no other place in this county that waits 20 minutes for an ambulance to show up. Our call volume in the town and village of Egg Harbor continues to increase. In 2022, we ran 173 EMS calls alone. In 2024, we had 208. The numbers are there. We continue to grow. We have large events in all the municipalities. We have a large event in the village of Egg Harbor with Pumpkin Patch, the 4th of July. Large music venue at the Peg Egan that brings in 1,500 to 2,000 people every Sunday. We continue to encourage people to come to Door County, and the infrastructure at some point isn't going to be able to handle it. We need another ambulance station in the central part. I encourage you all to please look at it very closely and look at the call numbers that we have. Every minute counts in an emergency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the public that would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing no other indication, do we have anyone online, Ken, that would?
Sure. So we'll go to individuals online. If you would like to speak, you could please raise your hand on the Zoom and I'll give you an opportunity to speak. I'll ask 2 more times. Is there anyone online who'd like to speak? And for the final time, is there anyone who would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll go back to the chair.
Okay, supervisor's response. Is there anyone that wishes to make a response to the public comment? Okay. Hearing none. Okay, the minutes of the September 25th, 2025 County Board meeting were included in the packet. Could we have a motion to approve those minutes, please? There's a motion by Supervisor Rublard, and a second by Supervisor Norton. Any corrections, additions? If not, all those in favor of approval signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, those stand approved. The county administrator, your monthly report, please.
Sure. Just 2 items that are in there. Obviously, this is the monthly report. You can see the projects continue to drop off our list, which is always a good sign. And then likewise, we also just included the transportation report. We did have a public hearing at the administrative committee this past month to set the rates, and there was a nice summary of the ridership. So we thought we'd include that in your correspondence. And with that, I'll defer it back to the chair.
Okay, are there any questions of the administrator regarding the capital projects or the public hearing? Okay, I have nothing under pending business, so we'll move into the resolutions. Resolution 2025-75, Supervisor Thais.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, I'll read the proclamation that is in front of us here today, and it's titled Crash Responder Safety Week, November 17th to the 21st of 2025, to the Door County Board of Supervisors. Whereas across Door County and throughout Wisconsin, emergency responders work tirelessly to save lives and to keep our highways safe, responding to more than 120,000 traffic crashes statewide each year, with 942 of those crashes in Door County in 2024. And whereas at every crash scene, emergency responders representing fire, law enforcement, emergency medical personnel, county highway towing, and transportation services are at risk of being struck and injured or even killed in the secondary crash. And whereas Door County employs a significant number of crash responders, and whereas the impact of traffic accidents, associated risks to crash responders directly affect the Door County's crash responders perform in the course of their employment. And whereas the Door County Board of Supervisors recognize the importance of supporting and protecting these vital workers who contribute significantly to the safety and well-being of citizens and visitors of Door County. And whereas each driver has a responsibility to drive safely and take every precaution to reduce risk of secondary crashes, which include following state move-over laws designated to provide a safety zone for workers on our roadways. And whereas in 2021, Wisconsin Act 115 added additional protection for these workers on Wisconsin's roads by creating a criminal penalty for traffic violations that lead to injuries in designated emergency zones. And whereas Door County joins the state of Wisconsin and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation in encouraging all Door County drivers to learn more about highway safety safety, and to recognize the hard work of our emergency crash responders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Door County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims November 17th to the 21st, 2025 as Crash Responders Safety Week in Door County, and entrust this observation to all county residents and visitors.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Okay, so on a motion by, this isn't quite recorded correctly here, but a motion by Todd and a second by Gauger to approve this proclamation. I ask that this proclamation be put on. It's the responsibility of the county board chair to make a decision how this affects the county. And the request came through the sheriff's department. And certainly with all the road work that's done throughout the county, it's really significant the way some people certainly are responsive to those locations, and others seem to be ready to speed through. And I think it's important for the workers and certainly for our staff that needs to respond to incidents in those locations that we call this to their attention. So that was my reasoning in having this proclamation here. So again, on a motion by Thais and a second by Gauger, is there any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor? I'm sorry, I do have one. Okay. Sorry. Ryan. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
seeing as this is a proclamation, I am in support of this. I'm in support of other proclamations as well. I am curious what the financial impact of this particular proclamation is compared to other things that we've been unable to get on the board. We had a rule that was in place that proclamations are specific for things that are going to impact finances and funding. And I'm curious why this proclamation is allowed to see the floor and to see a vote, whereas other proclamations, specifically the one this past June regarding Pride Month, was not. And I'm curious about the reasoning behind that.
Okay, that was my call, and it is not only a financial aspect of it, but how it affects the county operations, and I felt it was pertinent to our highway department and emergency services, how they interact with accidents on the roadway, and so that was the reason it was placed on the agenda. Okay, any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor of approval signify by aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Vinnie? Okay.
For the 942, is that in the proclamation, there's 942 auto crashes in 2024? That's
Sean,
from
I
our
think-
sheriff's department or from somewhere. I'm just curious. Continue
Sean,
with the
if you'd,
vote, it's fine. It's
I
just a
can-
question.
Yeah, absolutely. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation has a website called Community Maps where you can go into Door County specifically and look up traffic crash data. And I isolated that to Door County in the year 2024, and the number the Department of Transportation indicated was that 900 and some crashes. Now, is that every crash recorded? Maybe some weren't reported to law enforcement, but the number I got was from the Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Just a side question. It's a higher number than I imagined, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, different municipalities have endorsed this, whether cities or counties, and each of those, I think, kind of put numbers to their locations or statewide, and that was the reasoning for this. So again, all those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Resolution 76, Todd, or no, I'm sorry, that's Roy Engelbert would usually introduce that. He's attending virtually, so I asked Vice,
Jeff, are you gonna do
am I
Jeff
on the wrong one?
for finance?
Yeah,
It's transfer non-budgeted funds.
yes, okay. That should be Jeff Miller. I apologize. It came through it came through highways, but then
Yeah.
finance does the final approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution number 2025-76, which is the transfer of non-budgeted funds, Cana Island Reserve, in an amount of $33,300, of which $10,000 of that dollar is for our deductible, and the balance of $23,300 is for the debris removal. And I'd make a motion to approve this resolution.
Okay. Supervisor Boltman, you had a question regarding this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm not on the committee, so I was just wondering if this is an appropriate time I'd like to hear about what was the actual damages and what, this doesn't tell us the totals of like, I mean, we have a $10,000 deductible, but what was the total damage? And I mean, maybe a little report would be nice to know what was going on, what happened at Cana Island.
Okay.
Wayne, Wayne, would you mind coming up and
Yeah.
just giving an explanation, please?
Jeb Salines of Emergency Government was involved with that, as well as Wayne Spritka, our facilities director. Okay, we do have a motion by Miller and a second by Norton. And we'll wait for the presentation of an explanation of the numbers.
So, good question. I didn't bring those numbers. It was also in the finance committee. I think there was a memo that had, so we went out to bid and an RFP for the repairs for the interpretive center. I want to say it was in the $32,000 range or something like that. But we're really only responsible for our deductible. And those are that's the RFP and the scope of repairs that we know of. So when we get into the roof and get into trusses, there may be more damage, but we're really only responsible to cover that deductible within our reserve account. So that's why that's on there like that.
Can you explain what happened? They don't know, some don't know what happened in terms of the storm damage and all that.
Oh, sure. So we, as far as we know, straight line winds came across the bay and then came onto the island. So we have a path of destruction, if you will, that went straight into the interpretive center and impaled the roof with 3 or 4 trees. So we actually have, through roof damage on that metal roof that we're repairing. So I think we had the island reopened within 3 days. So we closed for all visitors, and the Maritime Museum closed. We had a lot of volunteers come on board. We tracked every volunteer's time and our time and all the efforts for our FEMA grant request, which we know has been denied so far from the federal government. And Jeb is working on appeals to the state and, to try and recover some of those funds. And then we made temporary repairs to the roof and to the siding from attic stock that we had from building initially. So we're kind of watertight, so to speak, but we wanted to get this completed and repaired this fall since the responding RFP, which was Emil Construction. They got the award. They're the only ones that responded. They did the initial construction to begin with, so they have people available actually to start the first week of November, as long as this is approved today.
And further questions, so, thank you for the update, because that was kind of my point. Was
Okay.
like, not everybody knows what happened out there. So you said, time was tallied, volunteer time and staff time. So is that part of the 2330 or 23.3, that's the additional money? And I'm curious, so that's one question. No, because I didn't know if we can claim for that or not.
No.
But then my other question is, I know we had a county payloader. I don't know if there were other county employees working that day for storm cleanup, but I mean, we had a payloader driver drive the payloader from Plum Bottom Quarry and clear all the roads up to Sister Bay and then ended up at Cana Island. And is that part of this too?
No.
No.
So two different things.
Okay.
The request for funds, and maybe Ken and Sean can speak to that more. The request for FEMA funds is not necessarily associated with this, so that the other 23.3 that you see in the resolution is for us to hire a contractor to do on-island cleanup. So we just don't have the staff or the capacity or the equipment to complete that, so we can get that done this fall. So So we did everything we could to get the island open and make it safe for the people to use it. But we still have a number of trails and that path of destruction, if you will, that we need to get cleaned up. So all that'll be cleaned up and chipped on site to reuse as mulch on site on the island for trails and things like that. So we've closed a couple different trails and volunteer paths. There's signs around the island that says, please don't go here, it's dangerous, right? We have widowmakers or hanging trees that could fall on people. So we've closed some sections of the island so far, but that again will all is scheduled for the second week of November to get on there and clean those up with a contractor.
Okay, so that 23.3, that's upcoming work.
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
So our Cana Island Reserve Fund can cover these kinds of costs. So they're not tax levy dollars. They're reserve funds that we received from our partnership with the Door County Maritime Museum. And so we hold that in reserve for these types of events. But we need permissions through Finance and County Board to spend those because they're not part of the annual budget.
Thank you for all that explanation. I
Yep.
thought that was helpful for
So,
people.
yeah, so everything else, the highway workers and everything, that was all tracked to receive funds with our emergency management director
Okay.
and the county board administrator.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, for an explanation for the public that's here, maybe the members too, my error in asking the chairman of the Facilities Committee to introduce the resolution. The request came through Highway Facilities, but Finance needs to approve it before it comes to County Board. So that's why Supervisor Miller should have been the sponsoring person of that resolution. Okay, any other questions?
2/3 vote.
Okay, we need a 2/3 vote on this item. We have okay, thank you, Wayne. We have a motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Norton. We need to go to our voter boards on this then, please.
We don't have, is Roy still on?
He has his hand up. I'll put him back in.
Okay.
I'm voting and it won't let me vote, so I'm pushing like heck in and I'm voting yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
All right, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, that passes on a vote of 18 yes and 3 absent.
Doesn't like it.
Okay, resolution 2025-78. Todd, would you do this one, please?
Motion first here. Oh, you good for me? All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to present resolution 2025-78.
I jumped ahead.
Okay.
This is not a good morning. I came early and I'm. We'll go back to resolution 2025-77, please. Okay. Supervisor Combs.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-77,
Hold it.
the FAA Automated Weather Observation System lease. This is for.
The clerk is having trouble
No,
keeping
it's fine.
my confusion here.
Okay, stop pushing buttons, everybody.
I hope this isn't a sign of what happens during the rest of this meeting, but, you know.
All right, now we can have a second, whoever wants to do that. Thank you.
Please continue now, bud.
Okay, this is for a term of 20 years, which means it needs agreement by the county board to approve this for the FAA automated weather observing system at the airport. The Highway Facilities Committee has considered approving it. And further, the Door County Cherryland Airport Director, subject to oversight of the Highway and Facilities Committee, shall administer the lease.
Okay, any questions regarding this resolution? Otherwise, we have a motion by Supervisor Combs and a second by Supervisor Gauger to approve resolution 2025-77. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Now, Supervisor Thais. Resolution 2025-78.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to present resolution 2025-78 for approval, and it's an appointment to the County Board Subunit Health and Human Services. This is a county administrator appointment, and it's for Deb Doyle, which is in the Exhibit A, along with her background.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Norton to approve the appointment of Deb Doyle to the Health and Human Services Board, the subunit. Okay, any questions regarding that appointment? Otherwise, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. And then Resolution 2025-79, Supervisor Miller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to approve resolution number 2025-79, which is the 2026 WLIP grants in aid to local government application. This resolution approves the authorization of that grant application and to accept any grants awarded to the county. In addition, it also authorizes the Door County GIS LIO coordinator to execute the grant application and grant agreements and to administer the monies received appropriately.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Vogel. Any questions regarding this resolution? It's one that usually comes forward every year as funds from the Register of Deeds office that are distributed by the state for programs in that regard. So, okay, seeing no questions? Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Resolution 2025-80, Supervisor Gunlickson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-80, which is an approval of the Wisconsin Deflection Initiative Grant to the Door County Sheriff's Office. This is a standard renewal that we've had for many, many years in place. Chief Deputy is in room if anybody has any further questions or follow-ups pertaining to.
Okay, anyone have any questions of the Chief Deputy? I think a few months back we approved the application for this grant, and now we've received it. So, seeing no questions, on a motion by Gunlickson, second by Boltman to approve Resolution 2025-80. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, the next resolution, 2025-81. Joel?
Yep, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-81, which is approval of an agreement with Axion Enterprises, Inc. This is something that is an increase in the sheriff's budget for safety equipment. I know this has been well researched and by the Sheriff's Department Chief Deputy as well as Corp Counsel on this. So this is something that somebody has any questions to, they are the ones to ask. But we're kind of caught in a rock and a hard place as far as this goes, as far as approving this and what the needs of the department are and the increase in costs pertaining to it.
Okay, are there any questions for any member of the staff or for the Chief Deputy? Okay, seeing none. Okay, on the motion by Gunlickson and a second by Rubelard to approve Resolution 2025-81. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries as well. Next resolution, number 82. Todd, would you
Yes.
introduce that one, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2025-82, we move to approve. It's a renewal and it's a revision to the Wisconsin Workforce Development Area Consortium Agreement. This is a 5-year agreement. That's why it's here. For those of you that don't know, I'm appointed to the LEO board, local elected officials board by the county, and we oversee the Workforce Development Consortium, and that's a group of 11 counties in northeast Wisconsin. And you'll see in the agreement, there's some minor changes that deal with some insurance and a few other things. Corporate Counsel has reviewed this and has agreed with it. So I guess because it's a 5-year agreement, it's here in front of the board for official approval. So if there's any questions, probably Sean would be better to answer them. So.
Okay, any questions of Sean? He has reviewed this agreement. It's something that usually comes forward or comes to the county board for at least some initial review each year.
Right, they do review it, but any contract with a term in excess of 3 years comes before the county board. So because we are renewing this, it is a term in excess of three years. That's why it's here.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. On the motion by Supervisor Thais and second by Supervisor Norton to approve Resolution 2025-82, all those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? That carries as well. Okay. The Resolution number 83, Todd, would you introduce that also, please?
Yep. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 2025-83, and it's an amendment to the Door County Administrative Manual subsection to address general artificial intelligence, which was not in the past addressed in our manual. You'll see the details there, and once again, I think Sean could provide much better context.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. So page 119 of the packet has the proposed generative artificial intelligence policy. With the use of artificial intelligence, especially generative, where it's generating new material, use within the county has grown. We need a policy to regulate what employees can and can't do with the use of this new technology. Several departments have asked for this. If those of you have gone to the annual convention at WCA, realize that this is a topic statewide. It's coming up on us very quickly. I expect that it will continue to develop and additional issues will come about that we'll need to address. But as a starting point, I feel that this policy is appropriate and protects the county with the information we have now. The largest concern from my perspective is sharing confidential information with the generative artificial intelligence program, because it uses that information and retains it somewhere. At this point, we don't really know who can access, how can it be accessed. We want to make sure that that is not shared, and that's really the goal of this, is protecting employees from doing something inadvertently and giving them guidance on what they can and can't do.
Okay, any questions? Supervisor Enigal?
I'd actually like to wait until anybody else asks questions, but nobody's put up their hand yet.
Supervisor Zettel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I applaud the efforts for the county to get in front of this. I participated in this WCA session, and it's very interesting how counties are taking advantage of that. I think specifically, I think Bayfield County was identified as someone who's doing a lot of work, and they've championed a lot of work in conjunction with UW Extension. In a couple areas, I think it may be too restrictive in this manual, in the sense that if you looked at what they talked about in Bayfield County, there's a lot of things relative to generative AI, which is, if you will, on the county's side of the firewall. And I think being able to have generative AI capabilities on your side of the firewall where you can protect your information should be, it's not clear that this allows that. So for example, a number K where it talks about, used to create work product, for example, they talked about how Bayfield County, their sheriff department, uses it to help do their recording of their body cam video and how that gets, done for reports. Well, yes, a sheriff deputy isn't licensed, but it's a designation, if you will, of someone, that's allowed to do that certain kind of work. And if it's that's information that's also on our side of the firewall, that it sounds like there are some applications with generative AI where it is protected, on our side of the firewall, which, should allow for its usage in that fashion. So I just would like to clarify, being able to not making sure it's too restrictive in that regard. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now Supervisor Enigal, did you, or Sean, did you want to respond to?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify with regard to that K, because it was brought up. We are encouraging the safe use of artificial intelligence. Our sheriff's office is likely going to be utilizing this to make deputies more efficient in a safe and accurate manner. What subsection 3K is getting to it is certain work requires a professional license, where a non-attorney, I'll pick on myself, couldn't use artificial intelligence to draft a court filing and file it on behalf of a county department. That would be the unauthorized practice of law. So what Kay is getting at here is we can't use it to generate work, social work, legal work that does require that license. We need to be mindful of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Supervisor Norton?
Cheryl gave Dave extra 30 seconds before he has to speak.
My device says you were up, so.
Yeah, no problem. Has there been any cases that you know of, either state or nationally, where private info has been used by generative AI and it has become a legal issue with the county, with the county or state or whatever?
I don't know of any legal cases, and I think the concern is just how generative artificial intelligence works and how these programs are learning and giving responses. That the input and the output is used by many generative artificial intelligence programs to learn. This is the way I responded this time. Next time I'll respond similar or respond differently based on feedback. So these programs are using input and output to make themselves better. And that use of confidential information is really prohibited under the law in a lot of areas, whether it's HIPAA protected, legal protected, and just the way these programs function, we need to be mindful of. This is not permitted under the law. Whether anybody could ever get to that data, I'm sure it depends on which software is being used, the protections they have in place. Some are more protective than others, but...
Right. I mean, I get being proactive as opposed to reactive when there's already an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think if I don't mind, that at WCA, for example, there was an example that they brought up during the session where they had, in this case, they used AI to generate the police report, and they actually had, I believe it was the officer, I can't remember what county it was, and they had a word in the report, and they asked the officer to define the word, and the officer was not able to define it. So again, AI also, if you used it a little bit, could also emboss your writing style. You can make it more professional, but we still, in the end, we want to make sure that people are using their words, right? Because it has to be their work. So there's been examples of that, and that's why, especially from the conference, after that session, Son and I had talked about we need to get in front of it more, and that's why we at least want to get something started for us in terms of that. Because it is something where there are issues that are popping up. I don't think we've had anything in our end at all, but again, it's just one of those things. We are going to encourage the use of it, but we're going to make sure people have at least some guidance on how we're going to use the technology.
I get a really good friend of mine is a college teacher. She's an English college teacher, and people have used AI to do reports and stuff like that. And she goes, when you ask them to define like a phrase or a certain part and they can't, that's the giveaway.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Supervisor Anigal.
Apparently Hancock has gone away, so
Well,
I recognize that AI is coming fast and furious in this world. I am not enthusiastic about it being on my equipment because it doesn't do what I want it to do. But I recognize that we need a policy of some sort to at least initiate it. So I recognize that. But I'll be a broken record on beginning paragraph, second to last line entry, the word must. I don't ever like seeing the word must in a document. Should be the word shall. If the intent is shall, then it should be shall. The word must is undefensible. But my question would be on 1CI, and then again on 2's beginning paragraph. We reference department head / supervisors. Help me understand why supervisors should have that authority as opposed to being moved up to the department head.
I can answer that. Some departments, department head is much more in tuned into every aspect of the department, but we have some large departments, specifically in this regard, human services, where supervisors are more boots on the ground with their specific area. They're going to be more in tuned into how are employees, how are similarly situated employees in other counties using AI to support the work they do, and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So I did not want to exclude those supervisors from proposing a supplemental policy to what you see today to address specific concerns with regard to their area of county practice. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to review it or Jason's not going to review it. The policy requires both approval by Technology Services and the Corporation Counsel Office, and I'm sure the department head of Human Services is also going to be involved in those policies. But that's why we have the slash for supervisors as well.
My difficulty is there's plenty of supervisors that, in my opinion, should not be put in that, the ability to do that operation. In my mind, it should be the department head that makes that final decision. I don't mind a supervisor helping to develop the policy, but the person whose responsibility for the department is not the supervisor, it's the department head. 3C, I have extreme difficulty with the open statement that if it's possible that the generative AI could have improper information, we can just simply add a title to it. I do not agree with that at all. I feel that that is inappropriate. It would be no different than me going out and writing my own equivalent. And well, I might have put some wrong information in there, but I'll put a note on the bottom that it's just my opinion. I do not agree with that at all.
And I can add context to why that's in there as well. And I had a situation where it came up for me where I used similar language. I had a request from a employee that a consultant was asking them, does our policies contain any enforcement provisions in this regard? Instead of reading every policy we have and pulling out specific sections, I put them into AI and I drafted a prompt that said, review all these policies and let me know each instance where and what policy is enforcing, in this case it was HIPAA protected information. And it gave me a 6-page document of every reference in our policy where we do have enforcement provisions with regard to HIPAA. And I gave a warning that, this document, they needed it quickly. This document, it was generated using AI. I have not reviewed the documents in their entirety. I've spot checked it. I feel it's fairly accurate, but it should be sufficient for your purposes. And in that context, I felt it was appropriate so that the employee that I was giving this document knew there may be other instances. This may not be 100% perfect, but it should give you a really good basis to go back to the consultant and say, here's where we address enforcement within our policies.
And I understand that. My difficulty is, as written, it's an scapegoat. Basically, you can not even proofread your own VERC document and walk away and let it go. I have difficulty with that. I have other issues with it. I know we and I had multiple conversations on this. Ultimately, as written, I have to vote no. I do feel we need something because it is coming and becoming part of everyday life. But as written, I can't support it.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, some of the same discussion perhaps or very close took place at the administrative committee level. That committee recommended approval, bringing it to county board. It's the county's first attempt to get into AI, and some of that may evolve as we use it and it goes forward. So hearing no amendment to the suggested administrative code, we do have the motion by Thais and a second by Rubelard to approve 2025-83. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Supervisor Enigal, so noted. Okay, at this time, as I said prior to the meeting, we will go to proposed middle emergency services station discussion. There was a lot of material included in the packet that goes back a number of times. Sometimes, I'm gonna do a bit of an introduction here, I guess. Sometimes county government is looked at as moving too slow, but we try to do a thorough job. The resolutions come before this board through the committee structure that we have. There's a number of standing committees, and that's how they're introduced, and sometimes maybe not with a lot of discussion, but the oversight committees have handled a lot of that. I was also asked this month by some staff that the Justice Center has been in operation for 20 years, and that they so noted that and thought maybe a little celebration was in order. Well, we're not necessarily doing that. If they're doing something at the Justice Center, that's their prerogative, but not as a county board. The building of that Justice Center was perhaps one of the biggest projects, at least in my experience. There's a whole lot of things that the county does, but that was one of the biggest projects, being a $30 million bonding. And you know, there's other works we do with protected harbors, Quarry Park, Shudwars Dock, you know, grandstand at John Miles Park, the Cana Island property that we work along with the Maritime Museum to operate, or they handle the operations and we handle some of the financing for it as well too, and with reimbursement. Since I've been on the board, there's agreement at Northport for the ferry dock with Washington Island. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of things and they don't all happen quickly, but in regard to the building from, you know, 20 plus years ago, the Justice Center and the Highway Shop were a lot of debate. The North Ambulance Station that we partnered with the Village of Sister Bay, co-locating, was always supported by the community, regardless of which county board was here. And I think that seems to be the way the county has functioned. There were comments about the museum earlier. The county has looked at the use of that property, and there's been some failed bids that the county didn't pursue because we thought they were too expensive. And we continue to work with a project manager looking at the possibility of using some of that, and hopefully some of that information comes forward. So I think we do a lot of reflection, a lot of studying. And when we get onto the ambulance service, certainly since that station at Sister Bay, the ADRC and the Central Ambulance Station was completed here in the county, and that was the last time that we borrowed. Since then, we've also had a new station at the Bug Department and on Washington Island. And so we continue to look at the staffing for the entire service, and information from the study from 10 years ago is in the packet. And Aaron has done a lot of work in that regard regarding the operation and the needs and the staffing and so forth. So looking for some discussion, it would really be coming before the county board in our budget. There's money allocated for 2026 and then likely some for 2027 if that's approved, and that helps to retain that spot. The resolution that came out of the Judiciary Committee was to help recommend a location. I think it's important for those municipalities being primarily served by the mid-station to have some insight as to what's happening and where the location might be. It's a direction that helps those municipalities and the county if there's a partnership that should develop. So not looking for any further direction, but actually at the budget meeting next month, there can be a change there. There's money allocated towards this project. It can be used for the communications project as an example, one of the next biggest projects that we're going to have to do that provides 911 service to all of the fire departments and law enforcement and EMS and everyone involved with emergency services. So with that, I've opened it to any discussion. Presentation by Aaron, please, and then we can go to some questions on it.
All right. Everybody settled in? Got water, got coffee? I think it's just, my presentation's only like an hour and a half when I practice.
Ask for a bathroom break.
Oh, do you want one? No, it shouldn't take long. I'm not gonna, I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today. I appreciate the support this board has given us over the years, previous boards, administration, myself, the staff. I think the communities are very we appreciate it. The service has grown, I'll use the term exponentially in my career here. You know, so I started here in '04, and in my time here, we've grown staff-wise, station-wise. But I feel over that time, the support we've gotten of the board is we've justified the needs that we're asking for. Here today, it's the same thing. I believe that the service, the community, it's time for this station to happen. That's why I'm here before you. That's why we put it in the KIP. That's why I've worked with the administrator, finance director, to figure out the responsible way to allocate money to it. The administrator and finance director they know I've been asking for this for years. We've had it in the KIP since I've been the director. It's just where I've had it, right? It was 5 years out for almost 5 years, and then I started moving it to 4 years, 3 years, 2, and then it got before you. But then we also look at, selfishly, right, I'm gonna fight for money for our department, right? And to get the needs we need. But I also have learned over time that we have to play fair, right? And help out and be responsible to the taxpayers. And that's the administrator and finance director that have taught me that, of how to do that. And that sometimes what I believe is a priority may be secondary to other priorities that the county of Door may have. Now I believe our station is becoming more of a priority. As you've seen in the KIP request for this next budget cycle, we split the remaining money we need to request that in 26, and then anticipating the remaining balance in 27. So with that, I do have a couple slides. There was a ton of information in that packet that's for your reference to look at things we've talked about, and that goes all the way back to that ad hoc committee of 2015, which is already, we're 10 years past. And if things changed since then, drastically, right? Have we made improvements since then? Absolutely, right? We've built technically 3, right? We built the new headquarters out of that. We built the South Station. We changed locations on the island, and then staffing has increased drastically as well. With that, this first slide, it's very busy, right? It's kind of confusing. There's a lot of stuff with it, but this is just the growth over since 2012-ish, 13-ish through today. And it shows you the month-by-month increases over those years. So to make this a little more clear, if we go to the next slide, we'll start looking at the month-by-month. So the January, February, March, April are in this one. It starts in... Just look at my own so I can speak in the mic for you. Specific to January there, you can see towards the left side, it starts just above 150 calls a month. By 2024, we're just below 350 calls a month. So you can see that growth even in the off season. So if we go to the next one, you get through May, June, July, August. Again, you see those trend lines and that growth. Go to the next one, we start looking at September, October, November, December, those same trends. If you go to the next one now, this one's specifically just to give you some idea of January, right? Kind of the dead of winter, and then July, kind of close to the peak of our season, right? And the peak has grown, but the off season has grown as well. And that's really what drove those past staffing requests from us, is to cover that off season. And that's changed, how we use our personnel, when we use our personnel. So I just wanted to give you that perspective. This next one is just showing, this is an average response time. The blue is, the left-hand side is the headquarters station or current central station. We obviously have to consider changing names if you all proceed, what we call our buildings. The blue is Town of Egg Harbor. the left side is out of headquarters or central, the right side is out of the North Station. Orange is the village of Egg Harbor, gray is the town of Jacksonport. Yellow on the left side is the city of Sturgeon Bay, yellow on the right side is the village of Sister Bay. If I misspoke there, sorry, left side is city of Sturgeon Bay. But that just shows you the difference. The yellow line on the sheet and the red line, those mean something. And I've been asked a lot about national standards, state standards for response times. And at the end of the day, there's only recommendations, and they come out of the NFPA, which kind of governs fire departments. Wisconsin is not necessarily an NFPA state, but they just make recommendations. And the problem is we don't fit real well into either of those. What the yellow line represents is an advanced life support unit for urban or suburban. Well, is Door County urban or suburban? No, technically we're rural, right? But what you can see with that line, that's 9 minutes is what NFPA recommends. And we meet that when we're close to our stations. The red line is an NFPA recommendation for volunteer fire departments. We're not volunteer, right? We're full-time staffed. And that's 14 minutes is what they recommend. So I just put those lines on there for reference. At the end of the day, this board, you folks, you dictate what we want as policy for response times here. We set our own and we work to strive to that. That's what we're looking for. The reason we're putting that central station forward, that middle station, is to improve that area up there. Go to the next one. This is just a different way. Yes, sir. Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, the fire back one time. So just a central left, north right.
Yep.
What struggling with the story. I understand the lines and all that kind of good stuff, but so is the bars on the right side north responses to the dead zone? What I described that just a little bit better.
Sure.
What are we looking at here?
The blue towers is the township of Egg Harbor.
Yep.
The orange tower is the village of Egg Harbor.
Yep.
The gray tower is the town of Jacksonport.
Okay, so that's response times from the north to those areas.
Yes.
That's what that is. Okay.
On the right side. Yep.
On the right side. And then the left side would be response times from the Sturgeon Bay station to those areas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And since he's asking questions on this side, my question would be, I know that when we have special events,
Yep.
we will place equipment at various locations.
We try to, yes.
Exactly. Were those factored out of this picture, or?
They're in there. So
Okay.
if there's a really good response time, that's in there.
Okay, because like if it's placed at the fire station near the village of Egg Harbor, obviously Fall Fest or whatever event might be going on, it's a quicker response. I'm just wondering
Absolutely.
how that's calculated. And
Yep, that's part of the overall average, right?
It's a small number anyways, right?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, next one. This shows, oh, Hugh.
I think it's that plastic screen that you put on these devices for,
It's Jason's fault.
this is Jason, we can blame Jason. My device is now hermetically sealed. So just from context, because it was a number that Town Chair Wilson brought up about the response time, and I think he was referring to the NFPA 1710, right?
1710 for
right?
full-time. Yep.
And I think one of the things that's important from a context perspective as far as response time is that's specific to a cardiac event. It's not every non-emergent and emergency event, gets the same response time. When you look at those standards were saying, okay, I've got someone with a cardiac arrest, what's the benchmark time, 90% of the time I got to get there so that person in that emerging case can be treated. So I think this is not a one-size-fits-all standard, and I think that's important to note that it's relative to cardiac events, stroke where time is of the essence, right? To get them to a facility in less than 3 hours, that sort of thing. Because I think as we get to some of the other charts that Aaron's brought up, there's this whole discussion of falls, which is a this whole notion of non-emergent versus emergent kind of response time. So I just want to provide some context, just that, that benchmark is relative to a specific type of event to make sure you can respond to, not all emergency events. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Continue, please.
So this one just expands on those prior ones. This is just showing you more municipalities. This is specific to the North Station. So the left side of the screen may be a little hard to see. Left side of the screen is Village of Sister Bay, Village of Ephraim, Town of Liberty Grove, Town of Bailey's. Working the furthest right is Village of Egg Harbor. And again, these are averages. Next screen. This is the Central Station. City of Sturgeon Bay, Town of Sevastopol, Town of Sturgeon Bay, Town of Nassau-Waupee, Town of Egg Harbor, Town of Claybanks, Forestville, Jacksonport, Village Egg Harbor, left to right. So this next one, to Supervisor Zettle's statement about the falls, what we did with this is we run a lot of falls, right? It's a quarter of what we do easily. And a lot of things are classified. Dispatch just dispatches us to a fall. Sometimes it's known injury, sometimes it's not. What this slide represents is our crew's findings of the call. So starting at the top, it may be the reason for the fall, I guess would be a better way for me to say that. So at the top it was a medical reason that caused it. The next one is a cardiac arrest. The third one is a trauma. Next one is an altered mental status or intoxicated. Dizziness and vertigo. Syncope or passing out, dehydration. The biggest category is weakness or repeated falls, and the bottom one was no injury or illness was found. So that gives you a little bit of the context. Our dilemma from a response side is we don't know any of those when we get dispatched for it. That's our challenge on our end. Now dispatch is making improvements as time is coming forward. This month they started a new program that they've received a grant for medical aided dispatch. So the dispatchers are asking more questions that can be relayed to our crews so we can make a better decision of how we're responding to the calls, whether it be emergent or non-emergent. Because to Mr. Zettle's point, time does matter in cardiac, stroke, and trauma. That's our challenge that we have in the county. Yes, falls are a huge chunk of what we do. And that's not just unique to us. It's a state problem and it's a national problem as the population ages. In your packet, we have information about the demographics of the county. We know this, we're an aging community. We are what we are. Our challenge for our department is still, we can't let that dictate our response today. As technology improves and the dispatchers are learning the system, we can get smarter how we're responding and more careful how we're responding, whether it's emergent versus non-emergent. Any questions, clarification on that, sir? Or?
I think sorry. Yeah, I think this is one that we've discussed actually, the previous term when I was on the Judiciary and Public Safety. So, and I appreciate we're finally making some investment, and it may be a question of, does the county need to make more investment in this area other than going after grants? There's a lot of departments, town of Brookfield, if you look at, those suburbs of Milwaukee have the same age population where they have to address that. The state of Wisconsin had 140,000 falls in 2024. It's basically 21% of all dispatches in the state. And we're the worst, the state of Wisconsin is the worst, has the highest fall rate in the US per the CDC. And our fall rate of, looking at the numbers from the data here in the Judicial Public Safety, basically the 1,017 in the red here, that's out of 4,500 plus calls last year. So we're about a point higher than the state average. So I was surprised that it's only 22%, not 21%. But it's a huge volume, and the question becomes, do we make investments in some other areas here to help, get ahead of this, or to reduce that? Like even things like AI, that when a call comes in, it's like, oh, this is someone who's fallen 3 or 4 times before. I mean, we already have the data in there, And those are the things that we can use to try to reduce that. But, the falls is a big one. And I think, that is part of at the end of the day, the non-emergent versus emergent discussion.
Yep.
And
And to Supervisor Zettle's point, within the department and over the years, he referenced back to his prior term when he was on public safety. We've been discussing it since then and before then of trying to figure out, because for some of these, an ambulance is not necessarily what they need, right? Going to the emergency room is not what they need. It just perpetuates problems with the medical system. But getting them linked up with the right help and coordinating other resources that really aren't our responsibility as emergency services. We've seen in other communities different programs that have come out, and the newest, what it's evolved into is called Community EMS. We've shifted some internal duties within the department, and Captain Dell is really taking charge of that. It started for us as a fall prevention program in coordination with the ADRC, and it's growing into this to try to get people the right resources at the right time, as opposed to an ambulance coming emergently, right? Because we don't have the right information. That program has been challenging. I think we've been working on that, well, since you've started. I mean, so for 7-8 years, we've been trying to find the right way to meet that need. And it's been challenging for us. So, and we're still trying to work with that. Captain Dell's developed relationships with a lot of partners that can get those right resources to those people. The next one is just this is where our current stations are. Those blue rings, that's a 10-mile radius. That's what that means. That doesn't necessarily mean we can get everywhere in there within 10 minutes, just because not every road is state highway quality, if that makes sense, right? The quality of the road does affect how fast we respond. So the next is just, again, for your reference. The next one, this one is just, it is the true middle between both stations. That puts it like on between Memorial Drive and County T, up towards the north edge of the town of Jacksonport by Hillside Road, in the middle of a 40 up there. But the reason we put this on there was just to give you a sense of what the improvement would be with adding a station here. What the red color represents is a response under 5 minutes. What the orange color represents is a response under 10 minutes. And what the yellow color represents is a response under 15 minutes. Zachary and GIS created this for us. I think is the chairman of the Jacksonport. It's kind of like Google Times. But that's just to show you that we can cut the response times. We're projecting by half of what they are today by adding a station in the middle. So those are kind of the end of the slides. The last thing I'd like to cover, maybe not the last thing, but off the top of my head, the last thing, staffing, right? We are not a cheap department. We never have been.
I acknowledge that.
Yeah. And specifically, our major cost, as with any department for the county of Door, is staffing, right? Historically, it kind of goes hand in hand. People think when we had a station or a truck, that automatically means 6 full-time personnel. I did submit that with the KIP, that, with the new form you all have requested this year, I did put 6 personnel in there because someday, maybe the next person after me will be before you asking for 6 full-time personnel. With this request today, I'm not asking for that. It's in there so you understand that will be a factor down the road. I'm not going to try to buffalo you and say I'm not asking for that. Someday, I'll ask you for 6 more full-time staff. The other thing that's in there is the ongoing maintenance costs, utility costs. That is factored in. We built that off of averages of our other outlying stations of similar size. Off the top of my head, I think it was $12,000-ish a year in utilities and 4-ish thousand in maintenance yearly is what we figured. The staffing part, how I envision that, and my command staff envisions that today, is using what we have and shifting our current resources and trying to staff it that way. I've been asked about like temporary staffing, right? Logically, we know, and you saw our call volume during the peak season is big, right? Quite a bit more than what it is in the off season. 10-ish years ago, 7, 8 years ago, I would have said that's a logical decision that we could have staffed it that way. Today, I would staff this 24/7, 365 because of the benefit it brings to the rest of the system and back up to the rest of the system. As I said, we'd use existing staff that we have today, existing personnel in a combination of full-time, part-time, and that's how we'd attempt to staff it. And I'd do that as long as we can. When I'd come back to you is when I'm failing at that. That's when I'd be coming back to you. And whether it be half, right, asking for 3, I don't know. And do I know when that is? No, the driving force of that is going to be call volume and our ability to staff it. When we came to you the last time in 2021 for staffing, it was because we were having a challenge with, at the time, it's how we still staff the island. It's on-call personnel. So almost like a volunteer, we just pay them to be available. They come in when their pager goes off, right? We were starting to really have a challenge doing that at the time. So we came forward with the request at that time after working with administration, our committee. We ended up with 6 full-time slots out of that. And we've been using them in various different ways since then to try to be more flexible in an effort to be responsible to the taxpayers. So that's what I'm looking at today is no personnel requests in 26. I'd lean towards no personnel requests in 27, and then be evaluating after that. I guess I'd chalk it up to the administrator and finance director. They talked me out of asking for the helicopter next year. They didn't think it'd be a good idea anymore. So sorry, I had to make myself laugh just to relax a little bit.
Jeff, do you have a question? Go ahead.
That little joke kind of leads my question. What are your equipment needs going to be?
Right now, I would not anticipate buying another truck as well. The fleet we have today, we're finding the pathway back to replacing it the way we always anticipated. So the fleet we have suffices for, I believe, for sure the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there, Dale, I'm sorry, there's something else. Go ahead.
The average cost of your people?
If I needed 6 people today, it'd be $704,000. So, in change, if they took full benefits, starting pay. That's what it costs to fully staff a squad. 'Cause it takes, the schedule we run, it takes 6 people to staff that is typically how it works. But again, we'd be looking to utilize what we have, trying to leverage our casual call staff or part-time, we call them casual call, but part-time staff. I guess one of the other things that, I've been asked about is the EMRs, right? The EMRs are a critical part of our service. They always have been, they always will be. It doesn't matter how many stations we build, how many full-time staff or casual call staff we have. If we do not have a robust EMR group, that's when we'll get more pressure, more feedback from the communities, right? Because those folks are our neighbors. They're all volunteer with the exception of the city of Sturgeon Bay. And they are helping get that first response, that BLS response there. And specific to Mr. Zettle's point about cardiac arrest and right, that time frame there, specific with those, is access to a defibrillator and CPR. And it's that time frame's even lower than the 8 minutes. So what we've been doing to help build that up, as we sit today, I have the 24 numbers, we're just final tallying the 25 numbers, but in 24 we had 179 individual EMRs in the county of Door. Out of that 179, if I counted truly by department, because of people serving on multiple departments and helping out, there's like 230 is what it looks like on paper. But when I break it down to individuals, there's only 179. That number was higher 20 years ago. There's no doubt about that. But the 179 is the highest it's been in the past 5 years. And that is solely attributed to the efforts of Captain Gordon and our staff and trying to pick up the slack of the technical college and not offering as many classes here. We are teaching classes now. Robin just started one 2 weeks ago, another EMR class. And that's what we know the importance of those folks to this system. And we got to keep it going and supporting them. The County of Door does support all of those via training. We always have covered state mandated training, and then reimbursing for workman's comp expenses. That's how we know the number. They have to submit rosters, and I have to verify who's who, so we aren't double paying municipalities. That's how we know the true count. And then resupplying them with any equipment used on a call. But they're invaluable to the system. We just can never put a value on what they do for this system.
Okay, Supervisor Thays?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, a lot there. I really, really appreciate, and I think why I appreciate this probably as much, if not more than anyone, is that I wasn't on the board in 2015. Obviously, I was doing something different, and probably 80% of this board was not seated when the ad hoc committee came about. You know, when I arrived, I believe that this was already kind of in the KIP area and things of that fashion. So I appreciate this information. I think it was very much the right call by Chairman Engelbert to put this in front of this board here now to review it and give us an opportunity to talk to Aaron. I did take the opportunity to give Aaron a call yesterday. We had a very respectful, informational 40-minute call. Probably took more time than what he really was interested in sharing, but I think this information is important. I think just for context, because obviously we've got fire department members here, we got chairman here and of towns and all this kind of good stuff. Sometimes we get painted with a tainted brush because maybe we question some things, and I just want to bring back kind of how we ended up here today, and that was through a finance committee meeting that talked about spending money to move forward with this, and it's been entrenched in my mind that a KIP placeholder does not necessarily command money being spent. And I think myself and a few others became alarmed about this thing taking off and maybe didn't have the proper approvals and that type of stuff. So that's how we really got here today. So all the folks that are all ginned up and fired up about whether we support things or don't support things, that's how we got to this table here today. And I think it was very necessary. Now, since that time, we've learned that what's in front of us from a resolution, which we'll hear about, is not necessarily about spending money. It's about trying to go to a location so we can maybe be prepared in the days coming to spend money. And also, I just want to recollect is that as a board, one of the things that we were tasked with, again, for the questions, for those of us that are going to question some of this, back in whatever April or whenever we had our financial summit or our budget summit, was that a course correction for the county. And a course correction because we were going to run into trouble in a few years in terms of our budget and our ability to afford the services that we have, right? So we put stickers on the board, course correction, course correction, course correction. What are the projects? What are the things that were potential course corrections? And one of them was slowing down the capital influx into our community, slowing down the expenditures for brick and mortar that came always with additional people and things of that facet, which we maybe didn't take a look at so much in the past. So again, for context, from my perspective, as to why we're here necessarily talking about it, isn't because we don't support Egg Harbor, isn't because we don't support in and around that area having better service. It's about, is it the right way to spend the money? The information that's been in front of us, is it now need to be updated or any of that facet? But the other thing is that, and you and I chuckled about this yesterday, but the thought of 6 people being in the KIP, we got election in April. I don't know how many of us are going to run or not run. There are going to be a whole bunch of brand new faces. All of a sudden, we have 6 people in the budget, and guess what? The ink wasn't dry on the agreement with the hospital back 2 years ago. I don't even think we closed the month of December, and And Mr. Aaron here had all of those 6 people hired. So it tends to move pretty quickly once, approval becomes made. So just make sure we're making the right decisions. The other thing, and then I'll be quiet here, is that I wish, and maybe it's been presented in committee, and I'm not on the Public Safety Committee, so maybe you guys churn this all up and I'm, secondhand here, but I always like options. This is it. I mean, this is it. The county board, this is it. This is what we have a choice of. And that's where, again, Mr. Leclerc and I spoke yesterday about what's the fallback? What's the fallback? If we can't afford 6 people eventually, what's the fallback? I mean, what does this look like if we were to man it within what we have here right now? Again, if we move people up to that area now to cover it, yep, I understand the call volume will go up, but I don't like the lack of options. And oftentimes in this county, that's what's came, I think Supervisor Inigo can maybe attest to this. We do complain about this sometimes. It's like, boom, this is what you got. And maybe that's because it was hashed out in committee and that's what the committee recommends. But I like options. So again, my narrative, please criticize me if you choose to do so, but that's how we got here and that's how I feel about this. It's not a lack of support. It's just, where are we,
Dave?
And that isn't requiring a response. That's a narrative. That's okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Anigal?
Next
question.
Thank you. A reminder that this is not just the 2014, 2015 world of interest. As long as I've lived in Door County, there's been an interest in having more response time in this middle neighborhood. Far longer than just the 2015 report date. But my real question is, when I was reading this report on page 123 of the KIP request, you had $600,000 down for personnel. Now you mentioned the 700 and something. I'm assuming the 600 was based on an older set of numbers.
It was, yes, sir. I apologize
Because
for that.
my memory is when we added these last group of 6, it was like a 125 average is what we were looking at for estimated cost.
The 6 with transfers was slightly cheaper because we proposed EMTs.
Different
That was
care,
the
yes.
first- So it was a lower
That's
pay
right.
scale.
Okay.
And then Mr. Whipperforth updated me yesterday on the.
Okay. That's what I made a presumption of just
Yep.
an older layout.
Insurance changes, different things, the union pay scale for next year. That's why there's such a drastic change there.
And I guess one of the other comments I would make is through the years, and I'm not related to the operations other than the EMRs that I'm personally aware of, there has been an increase, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, there's been an increase of that placement during events, right? Putting equipment a little closer. I've seen it parked in the fire department parking lot by the village area. I've seen it placed by Jacksonport and so forth.
Yeah. So it's 2 separate things. One, for special events, it's pre-planned, right? We pre-plan out when there's going to be large gatherings of people, or we have historical increases in drastic increases in call volume. We'll pre-stage apparatus and people, right? The other instance that you may see more frequently over the past couple of years is us moving vehicles and personnel for coverage. Due to multiple calls for service out of the same station, we're shifting apparatus, and that's where you'll see trucks just parked.
Yeah, and my guess what I'm getting at is, in theory, some of that pre-placing of individuals, equipment and that stuff should probably go down a little bit less. Yes or no?
If we did this?
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, yep.
Because that's part of the real reason is
Yeah.
the simple
Yep.
delay of an event happening in the village of Egg Harbor,
Yep.
Mayfest, all that other.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else with any questions or comments? Dale, do you have another?
Do you have time, do you have the times that the emergencies are most active? The time of day?
Yeah, it's, I think off the top of my head, like approximately 70-ish% happen between 11 in the morning and 11 at night. And again, maybe it's 66-ish%. It's just off the top of my head. But yeah, we have that. I mean, if that's something the committee's interested in seeing, we can add that to the monthly reports. But I think if you took the overall year, right, I think Saturdays and Mondays are the busiest 2 days of the week, and yeah, time of day is, it's, you know, it's basically that 11 a.m. to 2300 or 11 p.m.-ish type hour.
Well, the reason I asked the question was because the placing of the people.
Yep.
And so forth may make a difference.
Yep. Well, and that's specific to that question. We look at that, and that's how we judge how we staff the backup truck in Sister Bay, right? Because that went, like, shortly after I started, that grew from, we just would staff personnel on the weekends, right, in that second truck. And then it grew into the summer season or the busy season. And then it grew into year round, but we still shift the time of day that we staff that truck. Off season is just 0800 to 1800, and then summer season, peak season, it's 0800 to 2200. So, or 10 o'clock at night. Because we're looking at those things, and when are we the busiest, when are we not?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Hugh? Or, I'm sorry, Todd first?
It was a question, Mr. Ken, I had asked for some information regarding the last 6 years of budget. I don't know if you want to share that with the group or not.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, right, thank you. Doesn't have to be now. We can
Continue the
take
question.
questions after the question.
Okay, Hugh, you had a question?
Just a quick question, and then just some final comments on my end, because I probably took up a lot of the bandwidth, so I apologize for that. So Aaron, how many calls have you not been able to address?
Never.
Service call? Never, right? Never. Okay. And I provide that relative to, statements in the public comments about, 20 minutes is unacceptable, et cetera, et cetera. The State Department of Health and Human Services published a report about the challenges of rural EMS.
Yep.
Right? And there are a lot of departments in rural locations that can't take calls. I mean, if it's a large percentage, okay? So, we think we got it bad. We don't. And in some of those rural calls, 30 minutes is awesome, right? They're giving each other high fives in a lot of cases in rural parts of the state, okay? So that's important context here relative to a lot of people that leave from urban areas and they come to Door County and they expect urban response time yet, but no, we're rural. And I think we have to acknowledge that. So that's one thing. The other thing is relative to the whole cost piece, because that's, the station is peanuts compared to the operational costs. And I think everyone understands that. One of the projects that you didn't mention, but I think is important, is the whole investment in transfers.
Yep.
Right? And that costs the county what?
Nothing.
Zero. Okay. It's kind of like cold fusion. We got energy for nothing, right? And so that's important for me from a budgeting perspective, because most of our challenges is from a seasonal tourist volume. You look at your July and August numbers, and it's sometimes, in some cases, almost 2x what you have in the shoulder season, okay? But as I recall, County Administrator, how many tourism dollars do we get? Room tax dollars does the county get? That's also zero, okay? So we're asked to provide infrastructure of which we get no remuneration to provide that infrastructure support. So much like Door County Medical Center invested a bunch of money to basically solve their transfer problem, okay? I think it's a fair question to ask. When you have this tourist volume and you have that increased volume that you're getting room tax money for, maybe there's a better question that needs to be asked about how do you share the burden of that from an investment perspective and not put that on the shoulders of the county, which really doesn't get any revenue for that. And I think the other part is in your report on page 124, for the first time I'm seeing it, because I didn't see it when I was on the committee. Station allows the department to reduce response times, and everyone's talking about reduced response times, but we really don't have that as a reporting element in the regular report in the Judiciary and Public Safety meeting. It wasn't when I was on there. It would be done once in a while on an ad hoc basis. But if that's the basis, then we need to make that part of the standard reporting going forward, including monthly find a way to do emergent or non-emergent, similar to the way the Sturgeon Bay Fire Department does for the towns and the city that it provides services to, because I think that's important from a transparency perspective to communicate to the public as far as, how we're performing, and to help us benchmark, right? It's the response times, to some extent are high, but so you ask the question, compared to what? What was the response time last year in that area? What was it 2 years ago? What was it 5 years ago? Because at the end of the day, that's what we should be looking at. And I think from that perspective, all this data that Aaron's providing, I think has to be submitted in the Ward's Elite system, which is a state system on EMS performance statewide. So I think that's instructive because then we can ask the question, here's our response time, but how do we compare to other entities, to other counties, to Walworth County, where you got Lake Geneva, a huge mix of rural but huge tourism area. The Dells area is another one, right? And I think that's instructive because it's to help us make informed policy decision to get things done when it needs to get done, as well as communicate to the public that we're allocating these monies correctly. In my last comment on the cost and staffing cost pieces, we're needing to make a huge investment on the communication system, and that number's defying gravity. It keeps going up instead of down. Right now it's currently, I think, 29 million. And all precincts haven't reported yet relative to what that final cost will be. But I think, from a priority perspective to Supervisor Thay's comment, on the KIP side, we have to make some tough decisions in the short term. And to me, getting that communication system, which we know is going to provide, objectively, better support, better call access, which is critical for all of our emergency services. I just want to make sure that we're putting the priority there to make sure we can get that funded and reduce our debt burden of which we're going to need to help pay for that. So again, Aaron, thanks for all the data and stuff you're supporting here, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I answer a couple of his questions that I can answer? I gotta think back to how exactly you asked, but the statement about the rural and us, like we've always answered the call. We've always had enough staffing to be able to answer that. The one, I don't know if it's advantage or disadvantage, right? When people talk about how much they love our unique geography, I'm not a fan of the geography when I have to wear this uniform, right? Because that's what drives our challenges here. It's this. And what do we have on both these sides? No help. Our help only comes from down here, right? And when we've asked a couple times for Kewaunee County assets, the last 2 times we've asked, they were too busy and couldn't help. That's one of the reasons we've built the robust system we have built. Just for clarity, it's not that we want to, right? One of the areas I've been trying to find statistics, and the reason I don't have this is the challenge of wards and pulling data out of there is kind of frustrating when you're trying to get other people's stuff. Ours is pretty easy. We have everything at our fingertips. But historically, we've always liked to compare ourselves to Waushara County, right? Because they're county-based, they're ALS system. They only have a statement about their average response time, so that's hard to say, right? We've tried to break down ours into individual municipalities, different things like that. But they, surprisingly to me, they have 4 stations as well, and they're running approximately 1,500 less calls a year than us. I have more research to do on what their actual response times are out of stations, to make it a fair comparison, more apples to apples, as opposed to just the overall number. One of the things that changed my logic in pushing this forward and turned this more to a response time decision from where I sit and what I do and how I make decisions is when we, like building the Brussels station, wasn't that catalyst that changed how we do things in this county, right? What changed was 2021 when we were given the staffing to be able to quarter that station, because that's what changed response time that drastically reduced response time in the south part of the county, right, for the towns of Brussels, Union, Gardner specifically, because we quartered the personnel there. That's what changed our ability and how we could better serve that area. Does that make sense, and how that affected my decision making? Okay. I know you asked other stuff. I might be.
Like, just one more quick question.
Okay. We do have some others up though. Yeah. Vinnie, would you?
I just have really quick ones. Well, I guess everyone thinks that, but it's do we gather data on if it's a resident or a
Yep.
visitor?
Overall, so the past 3 years, 2023 is 84.89% were resident, 15.11 non. 2024, 84.44% were resident, 15.56 non. Year to date this year, 83.79 resident, 16.21 non. That is how we gather that is based off their mailing address. That's the best way we can figure that out. We have it broke down to individual municipalities, and obviously there's some to how that ebbs and flows there.
Okay.
That answers all of them, because that I had, because that was, it seems like a common thing that comes up is
Yep,
that it's
yep.
visitors, not residents, but
Yep.
it's much more residents than visitors. 83% is pretty high.
Yep.
Supervisor Rockwell?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments and maybe a question. It was just brought up that maybe we should prioritize our spending. With that being said, I would like to say that there is plenty of money sitting around in other coffers that could be maybe looked at to be brought over to this project, because this project, if we are going to completely prioritize the importance of our cell phones and our projects, I think that this one is very high. I am on that committee and I have sat in and did all the homework. I think that this is a must. I don't think it's even a question in my mind. Options, I would like to have had options too. I think our county is really unique. We don't live in a square box county that has 8 boxes around it that can support us. We don't have Menominee or Marinette to back us up in any of that stuff. So I just think that maybe as we take a little time to think about this, that, you know, this is a very unique situation. Our surroundings are different than anyone else's, and our monies we have. I'll show you where it is. You know, I don't see the problem with this. I am all for this. I appreciate all of your stuff, and I know that you have a lot more slides that you can show us. But they're all there for anyone to look. So I guess I don't have many questions, but thank you.
David, can I, maybe it's up for you. Go.
Sure.
Go ahead. Can I just add something, just because we keep on just hitting on it? So we did include, I asked Steve actually to put out our capital project list again, just for your review. And again, I think, again, and Steve can back me on this, but we definitely have reprioritized our capital projects, and we're very cognizant of what our capital debt going forward is and what we're trying to accomplish as a county. And I do feel, if you look at our projects, that we do have a good, strong financial position in terms of our capital projects and what we're trying to accomplish. And again, I think one of our master goals is that we continue to try to drive down the cost of the communications project. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that I don't think the intent today is to attack other projects that are on the sheet. I think we're trying to prioritize, and we looked at all of our capital projects, and we're trying to ensure that we can drive down any future debt. Obviously, the communication one's there. But again, if you look at our financial planning in terms of our capital expenditures, I think we're in a very solid position. So again, it shouldn't be, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in general, if we follow our plan, we have the capital there to pursue the project. The question is do we need to pursue the project, or do we want to pursue the project? So you guys asked Steve and I to put together the financial picture of where we need to go as an organization to accomplish certain things. I'm showing you that we have that plan in place. So now it's more really a question from my standpoint of, do you want to do it, or do we think we need it? In terms of discussion, I don't think it should be the roadblock of again, I'm not saying that we're just sitting the money. We're strategically planning how we spend our money, and that's what you guys give me guidance on. And Steve and I have painted a picture here of where you can accomplish those goals should you choose to move forward with them. Would be the best way I can answer that.
Guess to comment to Ken's statement here, I think he has listened to myself, to Todd, some, to Jeff, those of us that have discussions with him regarding our finance and CIP. Some of those have been reduced. The museum projects weren't going through at the high level. We've now reduced something to much lower. Hopefully that's presented next month, and we'll get a better understanding of what we're doing. But we're trying to prioritize and do what's needed, but yet keep our projects going forward. And I will add a little bit more, but did you have?
I did. I just wanted to make sure that this, I wasn't a criticism.
Oh,
It's
no,
just
no.
factual. That,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's the way
No,
it
no,
is.
I actually appreciate the comment. I just wanted to clarify. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy?
I only want to address Supervisor Izzetto's comment about tax dollars. The room tax, you might want to start looking at the community fund. There's where the tax dollars of that community fund come from that, from Destination Door County and from all the room tax that they get to collect. So that might be a way to help fund some of this type of stuff. You know, that's still, you're getting that room tax,
Yeah.
but you're getting it through a different way.
I think that was a comment at our retreat, and I think it's something that could be pursued, whether it's successful or not. We need to look at other sources. So Supervisor Thais, did you have a final comment or?
Yeah, so it was just a question, if you take a look at the call volume, something definitely happened somewhere in that 2013 area. Something certainly happened around that COVID time. So it's just a comment, I'm not sure how you track were the ambulances called out. In other words, I know that the ambulances are called out way more for other things than emergent things. You see them at car wrecks all the time, whether it's needed or not. You see them at fires all the time, whether it's needed or not. Maybe that's precautionary. Are those tracked the same as calls?
Yeah, so car accidents, we're only dispatched to reported injuries or unknown injuries. That's the only way we're notified.
Okay.
Fire alarms were notified, but our response changes with fires were always going, period.
Always. And is that a policy change?
Yeah. No, no, we've always, since I've been here.
Always,
Yeah.
okay.
The first priority is any victims. Second priority is the firefighters, just because of the risk to them.
And do you in your mind feel as though the public was trained to call 911 more in the COVID years? Because I know people couldn't go to the hospital or wherever, so I think the out was to call 911, and maybe there's a piece to this that you retrain people.
So part of that, it's two-part. One, it's been the change in, I get asked this a lot, right? Why the increase? Why is it so busy here? And it's kind of twofold, but yes, do people call for a lot of stuff? Yeah. But what we've seen the shift is people don't know their neighbors or their family's not close. It used to be, Ken's my neighbor, I got to know him. If I needed help, whether it be like I fell down or whether I needed help moving something, I called Ken, right? But now, a lot of people, the further north you go in the community, they don't necessarily know. So it's not just us, but it's fire, it's law. We're starting to become the default, what's that commercial, the easy button, right? Where we're trying to work with that, dispatch works on, false calls. We don't go to those, but the sheriff's department goes to a ton of those, right? Of the 911 hang up. We don't have a lot of that, but they do a ton of messaging on that. Part of that is what Captain Dell's working on with that community MS program is 911 is not necessarily the right answer all the time, right? To get to where you need to be. So that's a long-term challenge we face to try to address those types of concerns.
I appreciate that. So I close my comments then with just, I agree with, Supervisor Rockwell. There's money there to build this station. I mean, we can move things around. There's no question about that. To reiterate where I was earlier, it's the understanding of the legacy costs of that, because you build it and they will come, and if it's 7,000, 7 million, over 10 years, over 700,000 over 10 years, that's 7 million. By the end of those 10 years, that 700 might be a million. So just to make sure we understand that, because, somewhere along the line, as a county board, you may be forced to make a decision, okay, if this is so important for those 6 people, where does that other $700,000 come from, right? Because that truly is probably a decision down the road.
When you look at our service, and this was asked years ago, I remember this question, the growth of our service has been able to happen because we're countywide, and that gave us the ability to be outside of the state imposed levy cap. That doesn't mean we get an open checkbook, a blank checkbook, whatever the terms have been thrown over the years, because we still cost taxpayers a lot of money. Our department is expensive. I don't try to say we're not. We're expensive, and we're going to continue to be expensive. Just was it last month you all approved the resolution for me for the new equipment lease? That is, the equipment in our trucks is extremely expensive. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm trying to find ways to be responsible. That's why I'm not asking for staffing, and we'll try to make do with what we have. But yeah, the legacy cost of our department is scary, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
We should cancel all those 911 shows or 911 Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Dave, did you have a final comment? Otherwise,
I'm going to try to. I've been trying to figure out how to make this comment. It is not a negative comment about the department at all. It's a recognition of the sheer number of individuals that are volunteers that are in a position to be able to participate as an EMR and assist in making these events happen better than they could. I know numerous that they work in a position where they might be anywhere in the county, and they may be based out, live in Egg Harbor, but friends of mine right down the road were in the Gardner area and responded to numerous calls because this pager system we have, their abilities, their capabilities. That is something that is not part of your department, but an ancillary part of it that we as a group have to understand. We are very lucky to have the number of people that we have. And part of that is the falls calls is one of the most common conversations that I've had, which is they get to a site, they're able to get the person back up, and you're able to your crew is able to return rather than continue on its path.
Yep.
These, I presume, are still call-outs on your reports, right?
We have to respond.
They're responded anyways. Yep. Okay. But I do know that this is becoming harder. I didn't realize we had that many in the county, but it's getting harder and harder to find people with that availability of time, and that will become more and more of a problem with more and more stress on that department. Thank you.
yeah. I'm going to make a comment here too. I guess they say knowledge comes with experience and age. Maybe I got a little bit of both, maybe more age than experience. But I go back to, 92, the first year I was on county board, and thanks to Roger Miller, Jeff's dad, encouraged me to run. I got on to the board just when they had completed the new station down by the hospital.
Okay.
That was just opening. And that was really a step ahead. Down in Brussels, in the Bug area, there was an ambulance that, again, Roger helped initiate raising money to buy an ambulance because the county wasn't furnishing one. And that was put into the Brussels station and used for years with EMRs responding. There was collaboration, I think, as like in Sister Bay, to put a south station in with the bug department when they decided to build a new one. And we went for a little while without staffing against working with EMRs. And when it became evident that there weren't enough to fill schedules, and Aaron had to deal with, however, to staff the thing, you came requesting 3 people.
6 part-time.
Yeah, well, and to your surprise, I said, let's hire the 6 and be done.
Yep.
And I've never had any bad feedback from our community. They've appreciated the response time. It was in an effort to not only help the South Station, but reduce the secondary ambulances having to respond because they didn't have the proper training. So that's eliminated, a lot of it anyway.
Some of it, yep.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that help. I'll go on to falls. I got personal experience with that. I got a couple down the dead end by me. They had no family. It was my wife and I that responded to them. Finally, I said, we need to get you additional help. We tried. Their elderly are very reluctant to accept any help. But I said, you know, after once a month going and pick her up off the floor, I said, we have to do something different. And we think that changes everything. But they go into a home, and the home is required to call if they have a fall there. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I'm just trying to say, there's a lot of things that go into having the correct help out there. 12 years ago, I had a barn fire. Darn near every department in the county was there responding. EMRs were there, the EMTs, the ambulance. Those firemen needed help. It was a day in July, 90+ degrees. They couldn't keep fighting a fire like that. So I think we all have our experiences, and that helps with our knowledge of the system and why it's so necessary. Thank you. I mean, go ahead. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move back to the resolution. Or
So again, just regardless of the resolution, as I started with, I appreciate your support. I appreciate the previous support. Like, I understand all that. I understand the impact we have to the taxpayers, and we try to be cognizant of that. And the administrator and finance director make sure I'm cognizant of that. All right.
Okay, I appreciate the discussion. I think it was good. That'll help us as we go into the budget session in November. And with that, we'll go back to the resolution. Resolution 2025-84. Joel, would you introduce that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to make the motion to approve resolution 2025-84, which is authorization and support the staff investigation and recommendation of a location for the proposed middle station facility moving forward.
Okay, there's a motion by Gunlickson and a second by Boltman. I think it's important to recognize that this is for the staff to recommend the location, and there's no dollars really expended with this resolution. Any discussion on the resolution? Okay, seeing no requests for discussion. All those in favor of approval of that resolution 2025-84 signify by aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, thank you for that. We'll go to the denial report on the Huttman property. Mr. Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to accept the report to the Board of Supervisors regarding amendment to the zoning map of the town of Gibraltar.
Okay. There's a motion by Supervisor Zettel and a second by Supervisor Norton. Any questions of the RPC or the chairman regarding that denial? Seeing none? Okay. Just a simple vote on that is, okay. Okay. All in favor of accepting the denial report signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries as well. And then one of the last items we have here is the amendment of Chapter 31. So we go to ordinance 2511. Joel? Would you?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we move on, should we have a board action to not only accept the report, but to agree with Resource Planning Committee's denial recommendation?
Okay, so you want a clarification to that?
I would like
Yeah.
specific county board action to uphold the denial or reject it and send it back for ordinance amendment drafting.
Okay. Would that be part of your motion then, Hugh?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think we kind of
You want a
addressed that.
separate motion? Since we already voted on the first motion to accept it, you want a separate motion?
Yes, we should. We should have another motion to uphold the, to recommend denial based on the recommendation of RPC or reject their denial.
We had a motion to accept the denial, but Sean is asking that the board support that rejection.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
I make a motion for the board to accept the recommendation by the Resource Planning Committee to deny the zoning amendment petition.
And that the county board would deny it as well.
Right. And the county board is denied as well. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So that was a motion by Zettel. Is that agreeable with the Supervisor Shaw? Okay. Okay. With that clarification, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Then we can go to the amendment of chapter 31. And Joel?
All right, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve mandatory ordinance to chapter 31 Door County Code, which is for the county of Door seeks to regulate parking in county-owned and leased lots and other facilities owned by the county.
Okay, we have that motion and a second by Norton. Sean, would you want to do some explanation on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this resolution is on page 207. The actual language of the proposed amended ordinance section would be on page 208. What this ordinance would do is it would prohibit parking in County of Door owned or leased parking lots between the hours of 2 in the morning and 6 in the morning, with the exception of Door County parks and the Cherryland Airport. Those are the parking in those areas are regulated under a separate section of our code of ordinances. The ordinance does contain some exceptions to the prohibition. One being county-owned or leased vehicles. Two being vehicles that have a staff parking tag. And three, there is the ability for a temporary overnight parking permit, which would authorize either the facilities department or the sheriff's office to issue temporary overnight parking, just because we're going to have situations where we may need to grant one. It's in the best interest of the public to grant one. An example that was brought up at committee was, what if someone is here in the city, they're out at a tavern, they're drinking, they don't want to drive, they want to leave their car in a county parking lot. Sheriff's office could authorize that and get them a ride home. We don't want them driving. This one, when I looked into this topic, we didn't have anything on point for all county-owned or leased parking lots, so I thought it's time to bring something forward for committee and county board consideration, and whether we should have something along these lines.
Okay, is there any questions of Sean? Enigal.
Okay,
Mr. Enigal.
page 208, A2B. I think it reads incorrectly. I think there's an extra A in there. This prohibition shall not apply to A parking lots at a, to me, that doesn't sound right. To me, it should be this prohibition shall not apply to parking lots at the county of Door parks and so forth. So I think that first A should be removed.
Yeah, and looking at it, I think it's that lots should not be plural. This prohibition shall not apply to a parking lot at a Door county of Door park.
Right. Then underneath B, submit a written request. Normally, wouldn't there be a form available?
There may be. I don't think we need to specify the form in the ordinance. That's something that departments, whether it's facilities or sheriff's office, will come up. I can assist. That if it's in the ordinance, we need an amendment to the ordinance every time we want to change it. But if we're outside of the ordinance, staff can determine how are we going to grant temporary overnight parking permits and come up with an appropriate form to do so.
And I partly agree with that. Normally I do see, otherwise I can just send you an email. As written, I could send you an email requesting it, right? And that to me is not the intent. But then that brings up D, the $50 per offense.
Yep.
Now, historically, and I'll admit I do not know the way we've done it in ordinances at the county level, but historically dollar amounts are not listed in an ordinance for that same reason, but rather on a fee schedule someplace else, which is one of the fee schedules we did a while back is a good example, right? So for that same reason of having to go back and revisit the ordinance to change it from 50 to 75, shouldn't this dollar amount actually be soon to be verbiage to the effect of as outlined on the fee schedule, blah, blah, blah?
We certainly could. The Wisconsin statute caps the fee that the forfeiture we can seek to $50.
So in this case, it's a cap based on the way the statutes are written.
Statute is capped at $50, yes.
So then the only time we might revisit this would be if the statutes change.
Right, correct.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. For approval of this, we need to go to the voter board on that also? Okay, we need to go to the voter board. It's a motion by Gunlickson and a second by Norton to approve the chapter 31 regarding parking lot.
Yes.
I see my little, I'm locked up here, Joe.
His screen froze.
I'm voting yes, but.
Are you locked? You didn't, you're.
Oh, I thought I did. Okay. I apologize. Okay, that passes on a vote of 17 yes and 4 absent or, okay. Thank you. The oral committee reports, we have any reports? Not seeing any. So, okay, so we do. Nissa? I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Joe, I think, is still in the back. It's been a while, but have him come up and speak about SNAP and where we are in the county and how we're being affected. All that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what happens after November 1st.
Yep, pretty much.
I have no idea what happens after November 1st.
Fix the mic,
I don't have-
Joe, so they pick you up there.
Yeah, sorry. I don't have any idea what happens after November 1st. I don't have a crystal ball. The SNAP benefits has been in the news quite a bit lately, local and federal news. In Door County, the impact in November will be about 2,000 individuals that receive SNAP benefits in about 1,000 households. So it's actually 1,083 households, covers 1,900 people. So those folks will not have that food share benefit. Basically, food share is a card that gets loaded with funding to help them pay for groceries. So that will not be available in November, and at least until further notice. Even if the federal government passes something, it will take a few weeks for that to go into place. It's about $300,000 worth of funding that won't be available. I don't know what more you guys might want to know about it. The program impacts both individuals and families. In that process of the 2,000 people that are affected by it, about 36% are kids, 16% are seniors over the age of 65. I think 73% of the families, so a family would consist of at least one parent, one kid. 73% of those families actually have one person working, at least in the family. So their just income is not high enough to cover their housing and other expenses. So that's just kind of the local impact in terms of what we'll see in November. I think what it means is that we will see a big run on our food pantries, and certainly anything we can do to support those food pantries, I think, will be helpful for those individuals.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, the stats you gave with the percentages, and you said around $300,000, that's Door County.
Correct. That's just specific to our residents who receive the food share benefit.
Okay. Dave?
This question I'm going to ask may actually drive a agenda item for next month. As I mentioned earlier in the year, because of the changes occurring at the federal level, and consequently in many cases stepping down at the state level, which is driving issues within our activities, not just in your department. This is more directed, you might be able to answer it, but it's probably more directed to the administrator. I asked earlier, I'd like to have some understanding of the kinds of programs and federal funding and state funding that is being affected by the activities. So if it's not a very simple answer out of you, then that means it pretty much has to become an agenda item for next month, just to bring us up to speed to what's going on. So,
Imagine
Mr. Administrator.
It'll be a topic at your Health and Human Services Board.
Yeah, we
meeting
talked about
soon.
it a little bit, and I can
Yeah.
provide more specific information there.
And that affects your department specifically, but you know, we have other departments that might, and so you see where I'm going with, maybe we should just have a brief agenda item, if all it is a administrative page, you know.
I imagine there was I believe there was some preliminary work done in that regard when some of the federal cuts were first started. That was communication with Ken and I that we needed to get our arms around how it affects our county government.
And I just find it unique that we're talking about budgeting, but yet we haven't had any kind of that topic come up during this budgeting activity.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
that target is moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Nissa?
Sure, Joe, can you mention a couple places where people can donate and like food-wise, and what places are actually looking for? Because a lot of people think just random cans, but in some cases it's better just here's money.
That's a great question, and I honestly would say I don't have the information in front of me to provide you. I know some of the churches that have it, Feed My People here in Sturgeon Bay. It's something that we can connect potentially out on our website, push out through some of our Facebook pages for folks, but I don't know the answer to what would be the best thing. I haven't talked with the food pantries to get that specific information.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, review of committee minutes. Any questions on those? Review of vouchers, claims, and bills? Okay. Announcements, the next county, I'm sorry. Is there someone? Yeah.
I know Steve worked hard at putting together information relative to the EMS budget, and you never put it up. So can you either put it up or send it to us? I mean, the year-over-year expenses?
I'm sorry.
What would be your preference? I have it, if you want Steve to cover it, or I could send it out.
I guess Steve could cover it if he's still here.
I mean,
If,
you probably don't need to
No,
cover
that's
it, you
fine.
probably just put it up, right? Or send it to us.
You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, sorry to extend it, but. Okay, basically, that's all we need right there, you just send that to us.
Well, that's fine too. But if you have some comment on it, go ahead.
No.
It's just-
Okay, so what you're seeing on the board here is that what I did is I put together the tax levy for emergency services from 2021 through 2026. And the asterisk by the 2026 is because it's proposed at this particular time. So in 2021, the tax levy for emergency services was a little over $3.3 million. And then the middle column is the change, percent change from prior year. But the other thing I figured that would be kind of helpful for the committee to see is what the mill rate was for that particular year. So in 2021, the mill rate for the county is, you'll see in the notes there, is that a little over $3.97 or $3.98. That was the mill rate in 2021. Out of that mill rate, 44 cents is contributed to the to emergency services. Going into 2022, the tax levy increased to a little over 3.9 million. That was a 17.03% increase over 2021. The reason why the increase is, I kind of put some notes and comments as to why there was such an increase. Well, that was the year that the added 6 new full-time paramedics were added to the service at that particular time. The mill rate for the county's mill rate was a little over $3.56, and emergency services contribution towards that would be 47 cents. Then in 2023, the levy was a little over 4.2 million. That was an 8.54% increase over 2022's levy. The reason for that was the contract went up. Their increase for the paramedics was a 2.5% pay increase. We also increased the health insurance by 10% that particular year. The mill rate for the county was $3.10, and the ES portion was 43 cents, and again, that's per thousand. In 2024, the tax levy was a little over 4.7 million. That was a 0.43% over the 2023 year. And the reason for that is that year, we moved emergency management into under emergency services. The mill rate, the county's mill rate was $2.61, and the ES was 39 cents for that particular year. In 2025, the tax levy again was a little over 4.7 million. That was just 0.4% over 24. The mill rate for the county was $2.42, and then the mill rate for ES was 36 cents. In 2026, the proposed tax levy is a little over 5.2 million. That is an 8.7% increase over 25's. And the main reason is that the dispatch 911 percent allocation, we increased that by about 10%. Just so you understand what that is we take a portion of the dispatch 911 department's overall cost, and we have a percentage allocation that we charge to emergency services. So we've been doing this over the years. We usually had a 5-year average. Roughly, I'm going to say it's about 19%. In 26, we increased it to roughly, about 28, 29%. And in 27, we're going to increase that portion of the 911's allocation cost to about 50%. And we're going to charge that portion to emergency services. So hopefully I kind of explained that. So 911 is a department that's in the tax levy calculation. What we're doing is we're allocating some of that cost and moving it below the tax levy and charging it to emergency services.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
So by moving it to emergency services is outside the levy limit?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
So then the mill rate for in 26 is ES's share is 35 cents. Just to put that in numbers for the 2026 numbers, based on a $300,000 property, that individual would pay a total for county's tax portion was $664.38. EMS portion out of that would have been $105. So that just puts you into context when you're looking at overall money towards individual taxpayers.
Okay, Steve, if you could, I know there's some questions, but when, okay, let's say those 7 individuals use $700,000, how would that affect an average taxpayer?
Well,
To
so
raise
that would,
money?
based on our total calculation, that would increase the mill rate by 5 cents.
Okay, but the mill rate changes with
Yeah,
evaluation.
but
so that-
estimate roughly about 5 cents
Okay, per thousand.
per thousand.
Okay. Okay, now, Enigal.
Okay, so for apples to apples purposes, in 2024, emergency management was moved from one budgeting side of the system into here.
Yes.
Was it the full 11.43?
No.
No, there was others. That was just what I did is I
The
put
biggest reason.
the biggest reason why the increase was.
There's contract increases that are in there, and then also their striker equipment was also part of their increases. So our equipment costs are there, and also what you're going to see in variation too with this on some of this is the years that their vehicles are hitting.
Right.
So in some of that stuff, it's going to show you as increased tax size, but it's also the revenue side, but it's also the equipment when it's cycling through.
Yep.
Right,
So-
and all I was kind of really getting to is that 11.43, if you simply did a quick cursory review of that spreadsheet, it's really not an increasement of his budget substantially, other than an item that was moved from one location to another, and as a
Correct.
result, 25 and 26 show those increases as well.
Yep,
That
that is correct.
it artificially shows an increase that really isn't there,
Correct. That would be correct.
at least not at the same
Yes.
dollar percentage
Correct.
amount.
And just so everyone knows that emergency management was under the dispatch 911 department.
Okay, Bob, you had a question?
To me, that my thing doesn't work here, so Jill,
You don't get to.
Sorry
talk
about
right
that.
now,
Yeah, you
'cause
don't
you're
get
not
to talk.
called.
You're done.
Well
You
done,
used
Bob.
yours. You used yours
Oh, I
up.
thought you called, I thought he said,
Thank
thought
you,
you said
Mr.
Todd, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Nope,
Mr.
Bob.
Thank you, Mr.
Apologize.
Okay, now, hold on.
So, as we see the mill rate from 2021 to current, like the mill rate keeps going down and down and down. Is that just simply because property values went up?
No, it's because I'm doing good stuff.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah. No, the equalized value of it keeps on increasing. So that's the reason why.
Thank you.
At one opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what he's trying. He's trying for that. Yep.
Say it.
I thought it was when there's more staff, the director's salary is decreased. You got more
I
help?
haven't heard that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Todd, okay. Todd, go ahead, please. Okay.
I had no idea that we allocated like that. I had no idea. So, again, in terms of dispatch, sliding it over and we're increasing. I mean, when we say we're balancing a budget and we're taking money from 911, I understand it.
Yeah.
But it really allows, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it allows for a lot of game playing, in terms of what else gets allocated. I mean, you told me the other day that there's some radios that got stuffed in here and something else. It's just that there's lots of stuff that, it is about the levy, but it's also, it's taxpayer dollars, and that's the thing that we always talk about. So, we can protect our levy, we can talk about our mill rate, and we can, talk about, where the county is, but that's really good to know that. Now, what that totals in dollars, I'm not quite sure, and what else might be in there, I'm not quite sure, but that's something that I will pay attention to.
Yeah.
A little bit more in
We
the
could
future.
also look at, we do a portion of dispatch to 911 or to ES, but we could also look at doing the same thing for the sheriff's department. But you're just moving from one in the levy, increasing the sheriff's and then decrease in the 911 dispatch. You could just say 911 dispatch is a zero levy to everybody and allocate it to every department, but we just don't do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, but
Just
and you can
ES we do.
be very far reaching, okay, a percentage of your salary, I mean, what?
Well,
there's a lot of things that I hope we never do that, because that kind of blends the lines a little bit. I'm really not all that fond of this, to be honest with you.
Okay, Supervisor Rublard.
I just want to make a small comment. As far as the taxpayers are concerned, I think if you did a poll, they'd say they want the snowplow going through, they want the fire truck coming, and an ambulance. That is, I think, what the taxpayers want and ask for. Well, I'm gonna pass on the libraries.
Okay, thanks, Steve, for the information. Okay, announcements. The next county board meeting by statute is November 12th at 9 a.m. There will be the Fair Board report.
Yep, as well.
And presentation, approval of their budget. We had also talked about December meetings. Ken, you want to review that? Maybe what you're thinking?
Jill, do you have that?
Or Jill?
Remember?
I don't have it at my,
I can do that.
because the November county board meeting changes, we may not have certain committee meetings prior to that. Only if necessary. And then also in December, 2 days before Christmas would be our normal county board meeting. We've discussed it some and considered moving county board to December 17th. Or 16th, okay.
16.
You want me to do a quick review?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so I will send this out today to you, your schedules for November and December. Because of where county board has to move, that moves everything, so we're gonna try to hold to this schedule in order to make everything happen. You don't have to have a meeting if you don't have actionable items, don't feel obligated, but this is where we're gonna sit with our schedule for November. So your county board meeting, it's your budget meeting, along with the annual fair board meeting, is on the 12th at 9 a.m. You will follow that with a finance committee meeting. That's because of some bids for the county treasurer. The 4th of the month is going to be judiciary and public safety at 9, administrative at 10, finance at 11. The 5th will be highway and facilities at 9, The 6th is your Highway Safety Commission at 9. The 10th, Health and Human Services at 3. And the 13th, Land Conservation at 8:30. The 17th, Nutrition Advisory Council at 10, 2 o'clock, ADRC Advisory, and 5 is your Library Board meeting. The 20th is an RPC meeting at 3, and the 25th is a Board of Adjustment meeting at 4:30. Your December meetings will be December 3rd, Highway and Facilities at 9, Resource Planning on the 4th at 3, Health and Human Services on the 8th at 3, on the 9th, 8:30 Admin meeting, 10 Judiciary and Public Safety, 1 o'clock Finance, 4:30 Board of Adjustment. There's a Fair Board meeting on the 10th at 6:15. On the 15th is Library Board at 5, and your County Board meeting for December is 10 a.m. on the 16th. And your last meeting currently scheduled is an RPC meeting at 3 on the 18th.
Okay, and you will be
Yeah, I'll send
you'll be
calendars
posting all
out by
that.
email and also post it on the website.
Okay. Hope that's acceptable to everyone. We're trying to respect the holiday and time people may be having off, staff and our supervisors. So thank you for your time this morning. I think discussion was good, but we need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Norton, a second by Rubelard to adjourn. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.